fine. Cool. So hello everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time out to attend this event, and just to be here, especially on what is such a really nice sunny afternoon here in Nottingham. My name is Saziso Phiri, and I am the curator for visual, digital and applied arts for UK New Artists. And for audio description purposes, I am a Black woman in my early 30s. I am wearing a black crew neck t-shirt. I'm sat in front of a navy blue sofa in front of a magnolia wall with some plants behind me, and I have brown afro textured hair. Live subtitling is available. Just click on CC along on the bottom of your screen to switch them on. This talk is being recorded and will be shared online on UK New Artists YouTube channel and website. This talk is a wider part of the wider Navigating 2021 and Beyond programme, which includes free talks and masterclasses from the UK New Artists team. There will be a link in the chat to the remaining events for the programme as well. You are welcome to leave your camera on or to turn it off, whichever you prefer. Please keep your microphone muted unless invited to ask a question, and Q&A will be towards the end of this event. This talk is part one of a two-part event. So today you'll be hearing two artists presenting, and then tomorrow there'll be a masterclass with Cindy Sissoko, which needs to be booked on separately. So if you haven't done that yet, Laura will pop that in the chat so that you can grab a space, as we do still have some spaces available for that event. And so for today's event, as I mentioned, this is part of our Navigating 2021 and Beyond, and it's part one of how to get into galleries. And throughout these 2 days, you'll get to hear experiences of artists and a curator on how to develop relationships and get your work exhibited in galleries, and how to navigate the gallery world as a new artist. And so with today's event, we'll be hearing from two artists who are part of the current UK New Artist cohort and will be exhibiting in Leicester next February. The first artist is Jemisha Maadhavji, who is based in Leicester. She graduated with a first class degree from Fine Art from Montfort University in 2018. Maadhavji is a figurative painter who explores individuals from different cultural backgrounds, personalities and genders through symbolism and narrative. Her work follows a poetic journey in which she searches for beauty. And we're going to hand over to Jemisha, who's going to begin with her presentation. Over to you, Jemisha.
Thanks, Saziso. So I'm going to screen share now. Can you all see clearly? Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jemisha Maadhavji, and I'm an Indian girl in my mid-20s. And I've got long hair, long black hair, and behind me you can see patterned wallpaper and a painting and some bags behind me. I hope that's okay. And now I'm going to start my presentation. So as Saziso told you, I graduated in 2018, and during my time at university, I got the opportunity to curate some shows as part of the university program, and I also got a chance to exhibit in London. And since I graduated, I've been exhibiting in London and in Leicester and doing art residencies as well. So I'm going to talk to you about my experience and some of the opportunities I got, and how one sort of opportunity links to another. And I'll also give you some tips and some mistakes or some things I could have done beforehand or researched beforehand. I got into probably exhibiting, going out into the art world. So to begin with, This is my studio space. It's a shot from last year, but it gives you an idea of my studio at the moment. So during the lockdown time. So these are the exhibitions and residencies I'm going to talk to you about. So first of all, it's going to be an exhibition and curation I did at LCB Depot in Leicester when I was in my second year of fine art degree. Then I exhibited at Figurative Leader Prize Award at Moore Galleries in London in 2018, and then FBA Futures, which is part of the Federation of British Artists. That was also in Moore Galleries in 2019. And I did an artist residency, and I also had a solo exhibition in Studio Name in Leicester. And then I did the other art fair in St. Pancras in London. I'm also currently represented by London Connoisseur, which is an online gallery. And I also created my online show just a couple of months ago. So I'll also talk to you about that. So beginning with this one. So this was our first sort of exhibition in terms of curation and exhibiting as well. So this is our group. So we did this at LCB Depot. And how did I come about it? So this opportunity was given to me by DMU. So one of my tutors asked me if myself and a few others were interested in putting together an exhibition featuring DMU fine arts students from all 3 years. And they also had a venue decided, like, so it was, they kind of told us that it's LCB Depot. And so we went to view the space. We had quite a few meetings beforehand to kind of think about what to name the show, how many people will be involved, and what will each student be doing. So, you know, from packaging to designing posters and everything. So what will we all be doing? So that's how I sort of came about with it. And the process of setting it up. So I feel like doing something like this was a great opportunity because as a person, especially during my university years, I've not been a very, you know, confident person, someone that, you know, talks to people quite a lot and that sort of teamwork, organization. I wasn't very, that was quite new for me, to be honest. So doing something like this for the public, it was really exciting. So a group of students from all 3 years, we started off probably about more than a dozen, but then the numbers slightly came down by the end. But anyway, so what we did was, we first launched an open call, pretty much what all the galleries and, you know, a lot of open call galleries would actually do. So we put up open call, we advertised it through DMU electronic platforms. And we also went to everybody's studios and kind of told them that, you know, we've got an exhibition going on. Please enter your work. So there was no cost or anything. We put posters out everywhere, put a deadline. They were interested to enter, please send, you know, so-and-so images. And then we kind of had a deadline. So we decided that we're going to select maybe 20 or 30 paintings within that would actually fit in the you know, venue, because obviously you need to think about size and everything. So it kind of got us thinking not just about curating how it's going to look, but how many can we actually fit in. And we had multiple meetings and viewings as a group. So from creating labels to printing posters, organizing workshops. We also did a workshop as well. And then what time are we actually going to deliver? How many days is the exhibition for? So it kind of clashed in with quite a lot of holidays as well during the January time. So it was quite interesting because we were going through quite a lot of unexpected situations. As an artist, you normally just create the work and probably, you know, send it off, deliver it. And so you know, doing everything from scratch, it was a fantastic experience. You know, you kind of get to really understand how to work in a team, because when we're at school, we're often taught, you know, you need to work in a team, you need to learn how to do that. But when it comes to the real world, you kind of really start to understand that it's really about adjusting and cooperating with, you know, every single member. And yeah, so my experience was absolutely fantastic. There were unexpected situations and circumstances which we all dealt with very well. And we had, you know, when you do something like this, especially when it's part of a university, you build up great relationships, especially when, you know, it's linked with the university. You kind of, you have those kind of relationships with the gallery manager, LCB Depot, for a lifetime, I guess, because you're pretty much from Leicester, or if you're not, you still can stay in contact by saying, you know, if there's any opportunity, let me know, or if you wanted to hire a studio over there, it becomes a lot more easier. So I think one opportunity that you got, that relationship and that sort of thing that you've done, it kind of carries on forwards. Okay, so onto my second one. Oh, and this one. So this was our poster on the left-hand side that one of the students created. And because we were doing a workshop, we also managed to get a lovely article in the Leicester Mercury as well. So that's what we kind of really thought about as well, the marketing side of it as well. Now, secondly, figurative art today. This was so I entered my self-portrait, and it was an open call. So, you know, it was advertised on social media, on websites and everywhere. And I actually didn't have social media at the time. So I used to, you know, go onto every individual website searching for what open calls are there that would suit my work. So because I'm a figurative artist, I would look for something that suits my kind of work. Many of you might not be a figurative artist, but maybe if you're creating something that's abstract or some sort of opportunities out there. So I used to Google quite a lot. So this was an open call, and you kind of have to think about the cost as well of delivering your work. So because I entered my work in the Royal Society of Portrait Painters before, and that didn't get selected. So it got through the first round. So I delivered my work, had to go back and collect it again because it didn't go through the second round. So I became very selective about which works I'm going to enter. And I wasn't just going to enter, you know, whichever one. I kind of carefully thought about it. And that's why I selected this one, and it got selected. And another thing, I was actually the youngest artist in the exhibition. So it was really beneficial for me because I was still in my final year. And I didn't meet the curator for a very long time, maybe just a couple of minutes chat. The other artists that I got to actually interact with and talk to, it was really, really beneficial. And this exhibition got me actually a few more galleries again. So a year later, or just after a few months, I got an email saying that if I was interested to take part in an exhibition at Mall Galleries, which is FBA Futures is a Federation of British Artists. So it's basically, they are selecting a number of fine art students, BA and MA. So they're selecting them across the country. I think there were about 40. I can't remember how many there were. But they were selecting a handful and looking at their work as a celebration to, you know, new artists that recently graduated, basically. So I was really, you know, proud to be part of this because it's not just me as an artist, it's Leicester, you know, on the map of the London's recent graduates. So that's how I got this exhibition, because they already saw my work in the previous exhibition, the Threadneedle Prize Award. So that was a really good opportunity for me because we were pretty much similar artists, you know, similar age groups over here. And another thing I wanted to say is I actually didn't have my degree show paintings because they wanted to exhibit the works that I'd shown for my degree show. They were actually bought by Montfort University, so I requested for a little bit more time, and they offered me a couple more months because I was currently making some new work. So another thing is I didn't need to worry about delivery either, because that's one thing you should think about when you're being approached by a gallery or you're entering a competition, thing, because sometimes you can, you know, just go by train or coach, carry your work, but sometimes you'll have to actually, you know, get a art delivery company to actually deliver your works, and that can be a little bit expensive. So you might need to think about that as well. So I didn't really need to pay for this because it was covered by more galleries, because it was part of the, it was funded basically because we were, degree students, that's why. Another opportunity I got from this exhibition was I was invited to join the CBPP, known as the Contemporary British Portrait Painters Group. So I also got to exhibit with them as well. So I think when you get one opportunity, it kind of links to another one. And next, I was given the opportunity to do a residency in Studio Name here in Leicester, and known as the Torunemkwa residency. So it's almost a 6 to really develop my work from, it didn't really feel like, I was all out there on my own straight after uni, because I still had that studio space and I didn't need to worry about, the cost of a studio or the size of my works. I actually went really large with my works, and I really pushed my practice forward, something that I didn't get a chance to do in art school. I kind of did that over here. So this is I'll show you some images of the exhibition. So I'd like to sort of talk to you about this opportunity. So I eventually entered this residency, which was originally for Japan, and it was going to be a 2-month residency for Japan, but I didn't get selected for it. So instead, I was offered to do a residency in Leicester, so in their studio. So I didn't have to pay for the studio space. And for those of you who don't know what a residency is, it's basically where a gallery or a studio space would offer you, a part of their studio where you can develop your work. And you might also get a solo exhibition or a group exhibition. And these are really good things to look into, actually, residencies. Some of them you might have, some of them, they offer you accommodation, food, travel costs, everything. Sometimes they won't, so it's something you can definitely look into. And this is another one, the other art fair. So this was the first time they were actually showing up at this space. So we were London Futures, so we were recent graduates in one section, and artists that have been working for maybe, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years, they were in another section. And quite a few ones that recently graduated, and we were in the Central St. Martin's campus. And this was also an open call. And I will actually get into some more detail about what to kind of think about when you're doing residencies, when you're applying for art fairs. But in the time being, I'll just share my experience with you. So it was, I applied through open call, I got in, and we were about 10 recent grads showing in one space. And it was a fantastic one because I felt like there were so many people. I was standing there. So in art fairs, you normally would have to stand there. And I was standing there for about 4 days, as it was for, and people would come up, look at my work. Some would say something. They'd say some nice things about my work, or some of them would be critical. Some of them, they would really talk about what they see in the work. So as an artist, it's really helpful when somebody tells you, not an art critic or a curator, but somebody from the audience is actually saying what they see, what it means to them. So I think for, artists, especially for emerging artists, I think that aspect was absolutely fantastic, where I got to kind of experience what they were saying. So these are just some images of the show. And so this is not the last one, but second last. So I'm currently represented by London Connoisseur, and it's the online gallery. It was, I think it's been a few years since they've been online, and they mainly represent artists that are sort of not painters, but they're more like, they create more artisan kind of objects. So they might be creating sofas and interior decorating sort of objects, sculptures and stuff, but it's more like you get a limited edition of those objects. So even if it's like sculptures or a sofa or some kind of textile design, it's very kind of, you only get one or two of them. So actually I sent my portfolio to lots of different galleries, and I didn't know before that you're not supposed to do that, because they normally get back to you. They don't normally accept unsolicited applications and portfolios. But here she actually offered me to be part of the gallery, and so it's online, and this actually got me a really good article in the Harper's Bazaar, Arabia and India. So something like this, because and they don't take new artists, they mainly take mid-career artists. So the fact is that it's not easy to sell your work, and everybody knows that, especially when I joined last year in July. So it was fairly, during lockdown, just after lockdown finished. So it was pretty much, not going to sell much work, but as long as you get the exposure, it's fantastic. And lastly, I curated my own online exhibition, and I thought, online exhibition, why don't I try something myself? Why do I have to wait for a gallery to actually tell me what to do or accept, my work and show it on their website? Why can't I do something myself? So this is something I did, and I think any one of you can do it. Have a website, have social media, show your work on there, and tell the world that, hey, I have a website. I'm ready to do business with you guys. I'm ready to kind of like, go ahead. The time. Am I running over time?
No, you've still got about 5 more minutes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thanks. So I'm just gonna talk to you a little bit more detail about some things you can possibly do. I'm not somebody who has 10, 15 years of experience, but somebody that's recently graduated, and I'm currently doing an MA as well in fine art. So I feel that what I've learned in these 3 years, I can definitely share something with you. So I have an artist statement, and obviously you're going to update it as your practice progresses. This is something you can have on your website, which is great. Definitely have social media. I'm sure many of you have a social media account. This could be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think Instagram's great. Possibly you can, post in your Reels, IGTV, talking about your work, showing your process, showing little shots or videos of, a section that you're actually painting. So it engages the audience, and it, spreads the word. Basically, the more audience and views you're going to get, and there may be that one opportunity that might come to you. I also suggest that you have a website. You don't need to give it to a designer. I've designed my website. You can just do it yourself. I use Wix. I haven't even got a domain name yet. I do suggest you get a domain name. It's actually a good idea to do that. So yeah, a website, a newsletter link on there as well. So whenever you have a show, or just when if you're not having shows at the moment because you've just recently graduated or you're quite new, you can send updates about what your work is about. What does this work mean? What did it take you to make that work? You can kind of send those kind of newsletters as well, and visit opening nights, in galleries. Can't do that right now, unfortunately, but I think when it opens up, you can definitely start doing that. And you can also stay in touch with a lot of artists. Just, don't randomly DM them, but maybe if you have a question, or you can probably even email them. That's why often used to artist work, I'd kind of send them, messages on the comment section or email them. And enter open calls. I think that's a good idea. You can get carried away. You can kind of spend a lot of money entering open calls, and you realize that you've not got selected in any of them, and then it can sort of put you off. But I think if you be selective about which ones you're going to enter, there's a website called MoMA. So MoMA, MoMA as the museum in America, but there's also a MoMA website which actually lists all the open calls and some residencies as well. So that's something you can definitely look at. But think about how much you're spending on an open call, and definitely be selective. Will you be able to afford to actually travel there to drop your painting off or your artwork off? And then if it doesn't get selected, you have to pick it back up as well. So you want to kind of have a budget for that. And keep, as I said, meet other artists and be active and open for opportunities if something comes up. And the things I wish I had known, well, there are quite a few things, but I didn't really realize that there are so many different types of galleries. Before, I used to be like, oh, I want to, I want to try and exhibit in this gallery, also the other gallery. But there are lots of different types of galleries. So if you think about, there's a commercial gallery. So as an artist, you kind of need to think about what kind of artist are you? What I mean by that is, do you want to sell your work commercially? So if you see some galleries, they are quite commercial. So for example, there's Maddox Gallery, which is fairly commercial. There's also, I think, Belfair Art Gallery, that is very commercial as well. It's contemporary, but it has a commercial aspect to it. So there's contemporary art galleries, for example, the Victoria Mirror Gallery, that's more of a contemporary art gallery. So they're more your work, and you also want to think about what kind of audience do you want, what sort of audience will your work kind of respond to and will attract, what kind of collectors will your work also attract. You also want to think about that. And another thing about art fairs is you want to think about the amount of money you're going to spend. So I'll be very quick with this. There are two different kinds of art fairs. So one where you would be funding space. So for example, if it's the other art fair, then you'll probably be paying about £1,500 for your bay, depending on 3 meters, 5 meters, 6 meters. I think it's kind of like that. And you also need to think about accommodation, because you need to stay there for 4 days or 3 days, how many other days it is. Delivery. So you also want to kind of think about all of these aspects. And another art fair is where if you're represented by a gallery, they would show your work. Where you don't have to pay for anything or delivery, it's the gallery who does it. So these are some things you should think about. And for art fairs, think about how much footfall there is within that space. Is it the first time they're doing it at a venue? If so, then you probably don't want to enter it. You want to kind of think about, maybe I want to try entering something that is quite popular, or it has a good footfall, and it's a good selling art fair. Probably try doing something like that, then it will be worth your money. And also, so do your research in galleries. Actually, does your work fit in? It might take a couple of years, maybe a few years, to kind of think about it and get opinions from other artists. Let other artists kind of tell you, or kind of give their opinion. Don't let their opinion kind of dominate you, but it's always good to get some feedback from other experienced artists as well. And I wish I had made a plan for myself in terms of what I will do each year, at least giving myself a year to kind of work around these things. Probably that wasn't the best idea. And I'm kind of like a very last minute person. So it's not good to be a last minute person, kind of plan everything out and give yourself enough time. And yeah, I think that's it for me for now. Thank you very much. And I really hope this has helped. And I feel like I've kind of rushed it, but I hope you've got some information, something useful from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jemisha. That was excellent. I definitely learned bits there from you. There are certain points that I actually kind of wrote a few notes on in terms of kind of, you know, just getting out there and looking for opportunities, specifically those that represent your practice, you know, getting to know the artists that you exhibit with, and that, you know, one opportunity will lead to another as well. It was also great to hear about some of the logistical things that we may not think about when kind of thinking about exhibiting, you know, things like the costs in terms of shipping works and insuring works, and also just who is engaging with our work as well. So some really useful tips, and just thank you so much for sharing your experience as well, Jemisha. And just speaking about tips, everyone, just to let you know, just another reminder that tomorrow we're going to have our masterclass with Cindy Sissoko. So for those who've joined in a little bit late, we still do have tickets left, booking slots left for that event. And Cindy is a curator based here in the East Midlands, and she'll be kind of going through some practical tips for you to get gallery ready as well. So and Laura will pop the link for tomorrow's event in the chat. Now, before we go on to Ryan's part, I thought it'd be really nice and also useful for us to find out who has had experience kind of exhibiting or working with or for a gallery before. So I've just placed this poll on here, and if you just want to just quickly select yes or no, I'll give you a few seconds to do so. It would just be great for us to get an idea of your experience with galleries as well. And yes, we can take a quick comfort break as well, and we can reconvene in a few minutes as well. So if you do want to take a comfort break, it is a warm day, so if you want to quickly grab a cold drink, or I don't know, just quickly nip to the loo, or just stand up and stretch your legs, take some time away from the screen, you're more than welcome to do so. And we'll kind of start up again in a couple of minutes when Ryan's back as well. And just to let you know, we will have Q&A towards the end, so do feel free to already start asking your questions if you do have questions for Jemisha, and also questions for Ryan as well, and you'll have the opportunity either to ask them directly, or you can type them in the chat and we can read them out on your behalf as well. And then whilst we are waiting, for those who are still at the devices and who haven't done so already and feel comfortable with doing so, you're more than welcome to introduce yourself, where you're from and your creative practice. Feel free to pop your website link or your Instagram as well. You know, Jemisha in her talk was speaking about like getting to know other artists and networking. So yeah, do use this as an opportunity to network and put yourself out there if you'd like to do so. And thank you to all who've answered in the poll. So the majority of you have exhibited or worked with or had experience with a gallery before, 40% of you that answered no. But I hope that for those who have had experience and those who haven't had experience with galleries, that that this presentation has been useful for you so far. And so we're going to go back into we're going to start with Ryan now, who's going to present. And before I hand over to Ryan, I'll just do a little introduction to him. So Ryan Heath is a visual artist based in Nottingham, making work across painting, sculpture, and multimedia installation. His work focuses on themes encompassing semiotics, geography, and speculative futures. He has exhibited in the UK and internationally, receiving commissions and awards from established organisations, including BACKLIT Gallery, UKNA Artists, and the University of Nottingham. And Ryan's talk, he's going to be focusing more on his relationships with galleries. So as well as exhibiting as an artist, Ryan will be also speaking about his experience working for a gallery, with galleries, and also being a studio artist as well. So I'll hand over to you, Ryan.
Hello, thanks so much for that, making me sound very, very professional. So yeah, my name is Ryan Heath. For those that want a visual description, I am a white man in my mid-20s. I've got short brown hair. I'm wearing a black t-shirt. and I am in my studio at the moment in BACKLIT Gallery in Nottingham. So I'm going to do a little screen share right now. Hopefully this all works. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, cool. Okay. So I thought I'd start with this quite funny picture of me. I am we'll get to explaining this eventually. I am a kind of multidisciplinary artist. I use a lot of different techniques when making artwork. So I've done painting in the past. I've done a lot of sculpture. I've just made a short film. And I also work with mixed reality as well. And I thought I'd just share a little bit of my journey with you. Obviously, times have changed a lot since a lot of this work was done. And I recognize that the world is probably quite a different place than what it was, even a year ago. So with that in mind, hopefully some of the stuff that I'm going to say still rings true and you can kind of take home with you and use for your career. So I've got to remember not to like rush too much, give myself some time to tell you about myself. So some different routes into galleries that you can take. These aren't all of them, but these are the ones that I've done. So we've got volunteering here. We've also got doing it yourself, getting a studio, which is quite an interesting one, which I will talk about in detail a bit later. Approaching, so actually going to galleries and approaching them, or being approached, kind of waiting for galleries to approach you. So here are some roles that I've had in galleries. And these roles aren't necessarily exclusive. So for example, you could be an exhibiting artist, but you could also be in residence at a gallery. And then you could also your artwork could also have a kind of social element. You could be a social practitioner or a workshop-based artist. And these aren't necessarily exclusive. So I've definitely done, at the moment, I'm resident for Art Core Gallery in Derby. I'm going to be exhibiting there, but I'm also going to be working, or have done rather, worked with a lot of people in the community to kind of help make the artwork. So that's a kind of combination of all three. Things to consider about gallery work. So money is a big one. Money I don't think is talked about, don't think it's talked about enough, and it's quite an interesting subject to go into. I've got a slide later where I kind of break down how much I get paid for certain things, which hopefully will be quite useful to you. I guess you've kind of got to decide whether or not you want to go for an opportunity. Is it paid? If so, are you being paid well enough for you to do it? Can you afford it? Or, do you have to pay? A lot of opportunities like open calls or kind of, things that kind of ask you to pay a certain amount of money so you can go on said residency or be involved in an open call. You might have to weigh up your options as to whether or not you think it's worth it. There are some like big sort of organizations or art events or exhibitions, I guess, often ask for money. So Bloomberg New Contemporaries is a big one that some of you might know. And I think they ask for money, but that's like a really kind of worthwhile thing to put your money into because it gives you loads of exposure. And often the people that kind of go through that show tend to have quite interesting and quite long careers. Duration as well. You've got to be patient with yourself. I think there's a kind of tendency to sort of feel like you have to rush and constantly be making work. And especially when you're on Instagram and you're seeing people producing work at a rate that's faster than you, you might doubt yourself. You might kind of ask yourself, why haven't I been as quick to mass all these milestones in my career in comparison to the next person? Just, you've got to be patient. It's not a race. Everyone has unique individual circumstances. And reputation. You've got to figure out whether you want to actually work with the gallery that you might be possibly working with in the future. There are some galleries that are quite controversial to work with. Zabludovic collection is one that a lot of people tend to steer clear of. But for the most part, galleries tend to be, really sort of they mean really well and they really want to kind of work with you. You need to weigh that up as well. Also responsibility. So For instance, if you're doing a residency, so if you're kind of staying at a gallery for an extended period of time and you've sort of agreed with them that you're going to produce work with that gallery at that place, because sometimes the residencies, at least before the pandemic, you'd actually be there. Where is the gallery located? Is it located in an area that is kind of a bit more diverse? Is it located in an area that's rural? And you've got to think about the challenges of that. So for example, if you're kind of running workshops, which I do quite a lot, do you want to run those workshops for your other artist mates, or do you actually want to kind of make an impact on the community that you're working in? So that's where responsibility comes in a bit, I think. So I'm going to talk a little bit about do it yourself first. So as soon as I finished university, which was 2017, I was sort of working at bars, living on the diet of crisps and beer, and generally just like trying to get by, trying to make art in my spare time. And luckily there was a gallery called BACKLIT Gallery, which we'll go into later, that was opening up a smaller space inside of it, a sort of separate space, but it was like inside BACKLIT Gallery itself. And this is Chaos Magic. Chaos Magic has been running now, it's been running for probably about three years, I think. And this space is a multidisciplinary art space. So it kind of doesn't necessarily call itself strictly a gallery, but it calls itself an art space. Although I kind of would put it in the gallery, put it under the gallery umbrella. And it was basically started as a way to kind of give graduates something to hold on to when they graduate. In Nottingham especially, a lot of people will graduate the fine art course or any course really, and they might, move to larger cities. They might kind of, rightly so, want to pursue careers in places that might be able to sustain them a bit more than Nottingham could have done at the time. But this was kind of a way to, I guess, keep graduates in the city, show interesting work. And it was led by artist kind of mentor, like art mum, Joey Holder. And Joey Holder is, she's an artist who is quite an interesting one to sort of check out. She does quite sort of almost sci-fi inspired work, has a really interesting and kind of successful career, but also works as a mentor and a gallerist too at Chaos Magic. Chaos Magic itself as a concept, it has around, I'd say it probably has around 5 members at any given time. And these members are volunteers, they don't get paid. And it's kind of all based around the theme of Chaos Magic, which is, I guess, like a pick and mix of different occult, sort of magical, mystical philosophies. I've got a bit of a quote here actually from the Chaos Magic website that might sum it up better than I could. So the space is named after Chaos Magic, a belief system which aims to change reality through ritual practice. Members of the space view Chaos Magic as a tool through which a fairer world can be manifested through cooperation and inclusivity. So this was in 2018, and this was one of the first events that we ever had in Chaos Magic. And it was interesting for me because I'm someone who considers themselves an artist. It was interesting kind of facilitating other people's work and almost acting as like kind of part curator, part like dodgy builder, technician role sort of thing, and part graphic designer. Kind of did lots of different stuff within this. And it gave me a really good base. So when I eventually did start to think about moving on, because it's a graduate scheme, you can only sort of be involved in Chaos Magic for a year or two. I had an idea of kind of not only the work I wanted to make as an artist going solo, but also kind of how I want to present it and who I want to work with. And this is another show that we had. And here you can see a little bit better the studio space. So it's got these really lovely big windows. And it was taken on a day like today, really nice and sunny. And this whole sort of peach, I guess, area is the actual studio space. So as an artist or as a member of Chaos Magic, you have a studio there. So you can use this space to make work. But it also got changed into a sort of exhibition a gallery space kind of as and when we had shows. So it was kind of always morphing, always changing. And it was a really interesting and dynamic space. And these are just a few shots from things we did. They have a little garden now, I think, which is located just down the road. And we've worked with loads of different people on kind of projects looking at ecology, looking at sustainability. We had a tattoo artist in residence at one point. So it's really good, but it was also very DIY. And it was quite interesting to sort of, experience the gallery or the art world through this lens first, because I think often you spend so much time on the outside kind of putting these places on a pedestal. It's interesting that when you're actually in them, you kind of see them in a different light and you feel less intimidated by the whole sort of scene or the whole the sector, I guess, for want of a better word. So this brings me on to BACKLIT, and BACKLIT Gallery is where Chaos Magic is housed. And for those that don't know, it's in Nottingham and it's in Sneinton, and it's home to around, I think, like 80 artists, so absolutely loads of artists. And there's a gallery space, well, there's quite a few. There's a gallery space on the top floor. They've just redeveloped the bottom floor. So now there's a gallery space down there, and there's just loads of studios as well. And it's a good like 2-in-1 gallery / studio complex. So it's quite nice. And I've worked here, I've been at BACKLIT for quite a while, since like 2017, 2018. So this is kind of my main, I guess this is where I've experienced much of working with galleries. So this is kind of my main source of tips, I guess. So the types of studio and gallery memberships that you can have. Often galleries they'll offer 2 different types. So you'll have your associate members, your kind of almost like Netflix subscription style, like pay a little bit per month, but you don't have a space, but you still get access to a lot of the events. You get access to loads of the opportunities and things that they kind of might put out to just members. And then you get the studio artists who actually have the space and can kind of show people around, and they kind of have a studio that you can invite people to and show curators and gallerists if they want to come visit you. And one really good tip actually is if you're able to afford it, to rack up a few associate memberships if you can, for different spaces that you admire. So you could sort of look at a space that you may have, you might want to work with in the future, and you can kind of get an associate membership for quite a small price. And that means that you're tapped into their network, but you don't have the expense of actually having a studio there. So it's quite a nice way to, like, I guess, get in there. And this was my first project when I started working for BACKLIT. So I left Chaos Magic because my time was up there, I guess. And I kind of wanted to focus on my own work, and I wanted to earn some money because it was, it's a volunteer thing. So I wanted to start earning some money, had bills to pay, etc., etc. But also BACKLIT saw me working at Chaos Magic and I was really lucky. They actually offered me a job, and it was a technician role. And a lot of artists will work as technicians. It's not uncommon to speak to technicians in different galleries across the UK, and like you'll notice that a lot of them actually have their own artwork going on the side. And so this is the old basement. It's just a little project that I can show you. I haven't got any pictures of the studio spaces that they built. They've got the master's students down there now from NTU Fine Art, but this is the gallery space. So they've kind of just kept it quite raw, kind of typical of a gallery space, I guess, a contemporary gallery space. So concrete floors, white walls, etc. And around this time, I was making some work, and I got approached by Matt, who is the director of BACKLIT Gallery, and he was putting on an exhibition in their kind of main gallery space upstairs, and it was called Mountain of Tongues. And so it's a bit different depending on where you are, but BACKLIT in particular, they have this kind of, I guess, this rule or this practice of including studio artists alongside international and kind of more sort of established artists. So they'll kind of pack out a show with some really interesting people showing really great work, and they'll kind of throw in a studio artist and see how they do. And I ended up showing next to Slavs and Tartars, who are really fantastic. I'd say I think they're a duo, but I think there's actually quite a few members of the collective. And this was in 2018. And this work was basically centered around, it was centered around the Caucasus region. And this region has, I think, something ridiculous, like 60 languages spoken in it, maybe more. So it's a really interesting kind of diverse place in terms of linguistics. And I thought it'd be interesting to kind of come up with my own, almost like runic symbols based on my experiences of living in Sneinton, which is the area where the gallery is. So I made a kind of half painting, half sculpture that uses a lot of motifs from my walk to and from the gallery. I've got like drips of paint being used. I've got arrows that that road workers might spray on the pavement. We've got adhesive sort of sticky marks that might be left after someone's ripped off a sign. So I kind of made that work. And then UK new artists decided to show this piece in their takeover, which was in Nottingham, and I think that was a couple of years ago now. And so I kind of got like a second life out of this work, which was great. And they basically invited loads of people to Notts. I was able to show it there. And then I got a third sort of life out of this piece by showing it at Preston at the Harris Museum. And that was basically just through people seeing it. So yeah, it got seen, I guess. It got submitted for UK new artists. And then I think it got selected by Garth Gratrix, who has worked with UK new artists before, as he's a curator. And then he showed it in the Harris Museum in Preston. And it was a kind of showcase of UK new artists at the time. So that was pretty cool. I was really lucky to have that experience. It was like the first show that I'd probably had outside of Nottingham. And it was also the first show that was in like quite a grand, like regal setting, which is this image on the right here, which is this kind of the space in the museum. And around this time, I was really lucky to get quite, I guess quite high profile for me at the time, a gig called In Another Place. And In Another Place was a project that saw artist work appear on billboards for, I think it was for 10 weeks. It was 10 different billboards, 10 different artists. And so it was the first time that I'd done anything that was like, I guess, yeah, high profile maybe, or didn't exist within the gallery. So it was nice to show something outside of that. But it's just to note as well, like, I don't really like this work anymore. And as an artist and someone that works in galleries, you will often put out artwork that you might not like, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with failing, forgiving your failures and celebrating your wins. And this was a piece of work that followed quite a similar theme to the previous piece I've just shown you, where I've used the route of my place to the studio and back, and I've kind of made it out of things that I found on the route. Adhesive marks, like ghostly gestures of like human presence, if you want to kind of get the art spiel. So I should have another slide. How am I doing for time?
You're okay. Yeah.
You're good, yeah? On track? Cool. Okay, so after this, I started to think about where I wanted to go next as an artist and where I wanted to work. And I was around some really exciting digital artists. There were loads of really interesting works that were kind of popping up in my sphere, I guess, in my scene. And we'd shown a couple of interesting digital works at Chaos Magic while I was there. And so I started to think about mixed reality and virtual reality. And I saw, like, it just sort of so happened to be available at this time. I saw a course at Quad, which is a really interesting space in Derby. And Quad is, I guess it's a kind of, it's a cinema, a cafe, and a gallery. So it exists as like a sort of multiplex of like digital arts, center space. So it's quite an interesting place to go and check out. I think it's open again now, which is great. And they did a 10-week course in virtual reality. So I did that, and that was subsidized, which was great. So if you're an artist and you want to kind of do courses in Derby, you can get a subsidized rate. And so shortly after that, I started getting into virtual reality, and I started to sort of learn a little bit more about it. And I kind of had like a crappy, like 15-year-old MacBook at the time, so I needed something a bit better. And I saw that there was a residency going at the Digital Transformations Hub, which has quite an interesting name. And that's in Nottingham, and that is at the University of Nottingham. So they've got they've got loads of kit, I guess. It's like a sort of IT suite, I guess, that has loads of different kits. They've got really high res scanners. They've got really powerful PCs, virtual reality headsets, things like that. So they take on one artist each year, and it's called the Leonardo Fellowship. That's a really kind of funny official name. And yeah, I spent about a year sort of tweaking and learning a lot more about the kit. But again, this one wasn't paid, and I did it 1 day a week. So, you know, that was a sacrifice that I decided to take because I didn't have access to like this sort of technology, and I thought it'd be a really good resource. And this lasted for a year, and then I made a piece of work as a result of this residency. And this piece of work was based on the witch marks found at Cresswell Crags, which is a limestone gorge on the edge of Nottingham and Derbyshire. And this was quite an interesting place because they hadn't discovered these until very recently, and they'd kind of gone unnoticed. So I wanted to sort of make a piece of work about it. And I won't talk too much about the work because I realized I'm a bit pressed for time. So I started to look at my own witch marks and what it might look like in a kind of contemporary urban landscape. So I took the marks that road workers often leave, you might have seen scattered around the city or scattered around any kind of urban environment you've been to. And this is where the approaching part kind of comes into it. So I realized that I had this piece of work that was called The Thinning, and it was about this subject matter, but after the residency ended, there wasn't any opportunities to sort of exhibit this thing. And I sort of had this piece of work and was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with it? And so I saw that there was an open call for a paid exhibition. So you've got an artist fee and you've got a little bit of money for materials. And that was at Broadway's Near Now. Broadway's Near Now is a really interesting place because it does a very similar thing to Quad. It works with tech and art. But it also has residencies, it has commissions. So there's lots of kind of great funding for digital artists, if that's your thing. And this is kind of like one of their promo images of this guy just smiling, staring at something. So this is the gallery they've got. It's quite small. And I decided to show my work, which ended up being a VR installation inside a portable toilet inside this gallery. And I'd written a proposal, and I'd kind of basically already sort of had the work when I approached them. So that was another thing that I noticed worked quite well, was that I had like quite a sort of succinct, fully realized idea before I approached them. And I think galleries quite like that. I haven't worked a lot with commercial galleries, not because I think it's wrong, just because I don't think anyone wants to buy my work. And I think that I often feel more comfortable working with galleries that get public funding and kind of expect the artist to come in and produce something that engages the community or works with the community in some way. Because I do a lot of work with young people on the side. This is a screenshot from the piece. I'm not going to play the video because I don't think I've got time, but it's just, you can see it on my website. If you type in Ryan Heath on Google
You can play
artist.
the video if you like, Ryan, that's fine.
You sure?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. There's a little teaser trailer for it. If anyone has, if anyone's sensitive to, if anyone has epilepsy or is sensitive to flashing lights or kind of bright lights, this might be the time to look away. It's only a couple of seconds long, but I'm going to play that now, I think. So that's a little teaser trailer for that piece of work there. So workshop stuff, I'll kind of whiz through this a little bit. I tend to work with young people. By young people, I mean anyone from age like 8 to 16 is my typical sort of age range. And that's something I do because sometimes it might relate to a project I'm doing. So for example, right now I'm doing one with ArtCore Gallery, and we're designing like a kind of guardian for this particular square that's in the city. And I'm kind of working with a group of young people to figure out what that might look like. So in that aspect, I use it to help me with my work, but I also do it on a kind of freelance basis separate to my work as well. So I'll deliver workshops that maybe aren't going to be included, you know, under my sort of banner, I guess, in a more sort of, yeah, a bit different in that way. So this is one I did at BACKLIT Gallery with UK new artists who were involved in this, and Nottingham Refugee Forum. We made quite interesting works with, used a lot of clay and paste and stencils to make different landscapes. This is one I did at the Harris Museum. Often when you work with galleries, there might be an expectation to deliver workshops as part of their program. So even if you're an exhibiting artist that doesn't necessarily usually deliver workshops, they may ask you to do them. And often they're paid, which is great. So that's another source of income that you can get. And so I do that quite a lot. I really enjoy it, actually. And I think it's becoming something different to my own practice. And it's maybe something that I might focus on and kind of put under a different banner in some ways. I think about how I might frame that. So I think this is one of the last slides. Money, workshops. I tend to get around £100, quite a lot of money actually for workshops. It's quite a good one. So you can get anything from, you can do it for free if you want to. I've certainly done quite a few for free when I was first starting out. But you can get up to sort of £100 an hour for workshops, which is really great. Talks. This talk, I'm getting paid. I think it's over £100, which is great. And also, I've done a lot of talks that haven't been paid. UK new artists tend to pay all the artists that are involved in their public program, which is brilliant, and a really good example to set as an organisation. Exhibiting fees, again, a bit less than maybe something like a commission or a residency fee, which might give you more money because of the time involved in it. So that's a kind of rough figure of what you might get when you're a sort of artist at my sort of level. So yeah, emerging, I guess, is what I might be called. And I think that might be it. I think, yeah, I've talked about ArtCore. So that is me done. That's the whistle stop tour done.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Really informative, and a really nice perspective on your experiences of working with galleries and your journey as an artist as well. So really appreciate that. And so, as I mentioned in the chat, we have slightly run over time, just slightly, but we do have time to take a couple of questions. So if you do have a question, do feel free to place it in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and ask away. I think we do have a question here in the chat from Abby. Abby, if you would like to ask the question directly, you're more than welcome to unmute. If not, I'm more than happy to ask that question on your behalf.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So yeah, I just wrote in the chat, my question was, how do you deal with rejection? And how do you deal with kind of doubting yourself, doubting your practice? How do you push through and to find like new opportunities if you feel like sometimes the cards are stacked against you a little bit? That's to Jemisha or Ryan, either one.
Jemisha, do you want to go for that one?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, answering the first bit of the question, rejection, I'm also currently, being rejected for so many emerging, and it's something that we all kind of go through, and you probably hear this, by so many artists. I think it's really important to kind of learn how to deal with rejection. What I mean by that is, I noticed that before when I was studying and I used to kind of get rejected in an open call, my work didn't get through. I used to be, oh gosh, why did my work get selected? It's not good enough to actually be exhibited. And that would probably go on for about a week or something. But I think as I progressed, it's probably for an hour or two and you just feel like it didn't get selected, or I didn't get this opportunity, or I missed it. It's really important to it's really easy to say, but to actually do it, it's really about getting into that habit of kind of saying that, okay, I got rejected for this, but it doesn't mean that my work is bad, or it doesn't mean that my work isn't exhibitable. It's just probably that the opportunity wasn't for you. There's something ahead that might be even better. So I think this is something to keep in mind, and probably push yourself a bit further, work a bit harder. Maybe it's not to say that you're not working harder, but I think just keep continuing. Don't let that thing put you off. And secondly, the cost. I would suggest that if the cost is too high, then probably don't do it at the moment. Don't do it at that point, because you don't want to be in debt, or you don't want to be struggling with your personal life financially. So probably don't do it at that point. It's always good to have some savings, or if somebody like your parent, family, somebody can help you out, that would also be a good idea for cost. But otherwise, if you feel that financially you're not stable at that moment, then don't do it. Because I kind of remember doing an art fair and I did spend quite a lot of money on it. But I kind of learned from that it's really important to save up, or if you don't feel confident to actually pay everything, deal with everything financially, then don't do it at that point. That's not the only opportunity. You'll get so many, after that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Jemisha. Thanks.
Welcome.
I think Clay put a really nice bit of advice in the chat. I'll just read that out. So Clay has said that he puts a £5. Sorry, no, they saw someone give some advice on Twitter to put £5 in a pot for every rejection that you get, and then at the end of the year, take yourself out for a nice dinner. I really like that advice. Thank you, Clay. And then for the next question, we have from Zara. Zara, if you'd like to ask the question yourself, do feel free to unmute yourself. If not, I can ask on your behalf.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, I was wondering, how are workshops usually discussed when approaching galleries, and can it make your pitch stronger if you offer free workshops, or could it potentially make it weaker if the gallery aren't looking for them and feel pressured into that being a part of the deal? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I definitely don't think that you should. It's hard because I have done free workshops in the past, so there is that temptation to do that, because you feel like you almost need to do a few to sort of prove yourself or something. I think if you see an open call that has there's quite a few open calls that pop up, because a large part of the Arts Council's sort of criteria for an organisation to be successful in their eyes is to have engagement with community groups or with visitors. So there will usually be funding there for artists to come and do workshops. So if you're applying for a call out, then definitely don't say you'll do it for free. They won't want you to do it for free. They're not expecting you to do it for free if it's a call out like that, if they're offering money. And it's not a case of like the cheapest artist gets it. That's not how it works necessarily, where I've worked at least. But I think if you're doing free workshops, the best thing you can do is probably work with smaller galleries that are maybe more independent and kind of less reliant on like large pots of funding, and almost think of it as a partnership in some ways, and kind of go into it with a sort of a more of a sort of a partnership mindset, rather than like I'm going to give you a service, here's the service for free sort of thing. Think about how it might benefit you both. And also like if you're proposing things and if you're sending things off to people, it could be good to get a second opinion from people that you admire and you trust. Often like if you have good friends whose work you admire, or even just people that you know, they'll be really chuffed to sort of hear that you like their work and that you admire them. But also, like, I don't think it would take them that long. I don't think they're probably likely to charge to just kind of look over it briefly, just have a little look. I've definitely sent stuff off to people before I've then sent it off to the real, recipient. I've been like, check this out. Like, is it any good? What do you think? If you want to send me anything, if you want to send Jemisha anything, you're more than welcome to. I can have a look at it.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you so much for answering the question. Jemisha, thank you so much for answering the other question as well. We've come to the end of our event today. Thank you so much for sticking with us. As I know we ran over time slightly. It's been amazing having you all here, and we really appreciate you all being here on this lovely sunny Wednesday. And we do hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening. A massive thank you again to Jemisha Maadhavji and Ryan Heath, who at the beginning I mentioned will be exhibiting with us as part of our Leicester Takeover in February and March 2022. So do come down to Leicester and see us if you do have the opportunity to do so. And thank you so much to my colleague Laura for operating today's event and doing all the logistics as well. Yeah, again, thank you so much to all of you for coming along and attending. So just to let you know, this is part one of the How to Get into Galleries series as part of Navigating 2021 and Beyond. The next event will be tomorrow from 4 till 6, and that will be a masterclass with curator and cultural producer Cindy Sissoko, where she'll be giving some practical tips and steps for you in terms of working with a gallery successfully and getting gallery ready as well. So if you are booked onto that, do come along and bring pen and paper or something to make notes on, as we'll have a few mini exercises as part of that event. If you haven't yet booked on, Laura will quickly pop the link in the chat as we still have spaces left as well. But that's it for me. Thank you so much again for today, and have a lovely evening, and we look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow and some of you during the course of the Navigating 2021 and Beyond series. Take care. Bye.